Okay, and we're live on the Niche Agent. So today we've got a great guest for you. It's Matthew Slutsky from BuzzBuzzHome. So Matthew, why don't you take a quick second and tell us a bit about yourself and why you're here?
For sure. My name is Matthew Slutsky. I founded BuzzBuzzHome. We are the largest online listing of all new residential construction. So that's all new condos, townhomes, subdivisions, anything rural to urban. The builder sells, we list. So basically, in a nutshell, we're MLS, but for new construction. Typically, MLS doesn't list new construction, or if they do, a builder might put up a unit or two on MLS, but there is no actual listing service for either realtors or public to actually go to and find out the most accurate information on every development. So we're listing service across North America that does that. Our goal is to create the best new home purchasing experience for the user. So that's why I'm here to talk about real estate. We know pretty much everything new construction that's going on. We work with a lot of realtors and work with a lot of end users, but we're not agents. We don't sell anything to purchasers. We don't transact in real estate. At the end of the day, we're a marketing company or a broadcast company.
Okay. So when you got started, before you got started, what were you doing prior to this?
Prior to this, I was in land development. Most recent time prior to this, I was VP of development for Diamante, which is a luxury condo builder in Toronto. So worked on a bunch of projects with them. And not to sound cliche, but saw a huge gap of information in the market. We were spending tens of thousands of dollars a week on print advertising, on magazines, on A-frames, on whatever it was, all the typical advertising. We created this website, or website for projects, as every other builder did, but never really started to engage online. So I started to see this gap and started to see more and more people coming online trying to find their new home, and builders just weren't offering them anything, and there was no solution like BuzzBuzzHome at the time, really across North America, where there was actually a listing of everything. So I said, okay, this was actually 2008, right when the real estate market in Canada had its dive for about a year. Had a great job, and for whatever reason thought, oh, this would be a good time to start my own thing and leave my cushy job. And that's what I did. Left the job, partnered up with my business partner, and started BuzzBuzzHome. And since then, we started in Toronto, and we expanded across Canada and then into the United States. We now have a team of over 40 staff, headquarters in Toronto, but with offices in Toronto, Vancouver, and New York.
Wow. So I got to ask, where did the name come from?
Yeah, it's a great question that we get asked a lot, and I wish I had this awesome answer for you. But my partner and I, maybe we're not the most creative people. So when we started to launch BuzzBuzzHome, we actually called ourselves Casa-Roo. And it was casa, like a house in Spanish, but spelled with a K. Roo, like a street in French, but spelled R-O-O. And we were going to be this kangaroo with a pouch. The pouch is going to be this house, and there's going to be somebody living in there. We had this whole thing. We actually incorporated under that name. And then when we went to our first marketing firm for our branding, we said, we are Casa-Roo. And they were like, no, you're not. And they came up with a bunch of options for us. And we ended up going with BuzzBuzzHome, which is a nice, catchy name. From there, one of our kind of creatures that have come out of it is Leonard the Bee. So our logo is a hive, and Leonard the Bee is this bee that floats around and is supposed to be flying to other construction sites, finding information, and that's kind of the history of our brand.
Okay, perfect. It's good to know. So when you kind of got that business started, what did it look like for you from realizing there's that gap to kind of getting it kicked off to actually getting it out into the public?
Yeah, so it was really tough. First off, as a young entrepreneur with an idea, you go around to your peers and see what they think. It's kind of funny at first. We had, I went to other developers and I told them, I've got this idea and I want to pursue it. I told them it's not my listing. And a few of the responses were like, oh, well, that's already been done. Oh, geez, I didn't find it. And they're like, no, not only has it been done, but we actually use them, we advertise with them. And one of these builders was another one of my old bosses who I worked at before Diamante. And I said, well, that's interesting. Whoa, what's the called? So I can actually go and look it up. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I said, well, can you pull out go to your invoices and pull out an invoice? Like, I need to know who this is because I can't find them. And the accounting team worked, they couldn't find this invoice. And this actually happened with a few builders that I talked to. So it kind of dawned on me that it was an idea that was just so obviously needed in the marketplace that builders actually expected that it was already there. Not only did they expect it was already there, they actually thought they were advertising. Like, they assumed they were paying for it. So, when I started hearing stories like that, I was like, okay, well, this will be an easy win for me. If they already expect it's there, they think they're paying for it, well, I'll just come in and they'll pay for it again. So there was that market. Then there was the other people that I talked to, some builders and some real estate professionals, some realtors were like, this is the worst idea ever. This can't be done. There's already MLS, and this will never happen. So there was definitely the mix there. On one hand, I was getting positive reinforcement. On the other hand, I was being told this can't be done. And at that point, I'd already left my job. So if it couldn't be done, I was kind of going to be in a pickle.
You're committed.
Yeah. And to make matters worse, my background is real estate on the development side. My business partner has a strong technical background. He actually, where I came from real estate, he actually had founded another company in the nutrition world, and ended up selling it to a U.S. company. But he had worked with his engineers to create a really strong back end. So that's why I saw there was this mix. But at the end of the day, neither of us were coders or engineers, software engineers. So it was a huge struggle because we needed a strong engineering team, and neither the founders are engineers. So there's a lot of struggle with it. It's a struggle that we've been dealing with until recently. We're now about 5 years old, and we've only recently really built our engineering team to the point where we're very confident. So that was our first struggle, is the engineering aspect of it. So obviously a scary time with me, Cliff, and we had one engineer working on it, and slowly started to build out the team and figuring out how to build out the actually engineering side of the team. So we launched, and we launched with kind of a semi-viable product. Or when we launched, our website actually didn't work very well. But again, it was interesting because there was such a gap of information in the marketplace. Even though our site wasn't really working that well, it was still working enough that people were able to use it and actually find information. So builders were actually advertising on us on our site quite early on. And just to be clear, when I say advertising, BuzzBuzzHome is a listing of all new residential construction, whether you're my client or not. But builders are able to advertise or feature their project, which gets them extra visibility on the site. So they get ads across the site. When you're on our map, they get priority in list view. But the quality of information that we display between a featured project and a non-featured project is exactly the same. Again, our mission right from the beginning was, let's create the best new home purchasing experience. So that's kind of our overall mission, and revenue is not near that. We'll build the best product, and once we build that, figure out ways to actually monetize the site. And everything that we do has that in mind. It's not, we do things that actually hurt us financially, but it creates a better new home purchasing experience. So that was another struggle. We're launching, we're small, we never raised capital, and we're making decisions that are ultimately not generating us revenue. So there's a conflict there, but we kind of held the course and slowly built up more clients and became a profitable company.
Okay.
So your question, I kind of beat around the question.
That was perfect. So then taking into that, when you're starting to make profit, how did you go from, you said you've been around for 5 years, how did you go from that local company in Toronto to taking over Canada and then now internationally? What steps happened for you to do that?
Yeah, so we always believed in rapid expansion and using all of our profit and reinvesting it back in the company. So we're constantly hiring more, putting more into expansion, bettering our systems, and never just getting building something and believing that's it. Well, when I walk away, it will generate revenue. but everything that we make gets reinvested back in the company, which was another struggle. I mean, truth be told, my business partner and I didn't take a salary for the first, 3 years. I mean, that was 3 years. We'd already invested everything into the company, and now we're even taking salary. You know, we had a team of, at the time, maybe 15 staff, and we weren't even taking salary. So, you know, it's one of those decisions. It's really tough, but it needed to be done. You know, we really believed in what we did, and obviously we were starting to get clients. They believed in what we did. So that was definitely an interesting time, and that, you know, that was one of the elements is building rapidly, but also, you know, believing in building well. You know, everything that we do, we don't think, oh, we're going to build a new map and then just kind of use the latest technology and think it's going to be great. You know, we really run a tight, streamlined ship on how we build things, how we kind of prove that it is going to create the best new home purchasing experience before we even start getting into the design mode, and working with our designers, making sure that everybody's working on it really knows the real estate industry inside out, to make sure that the functionality that we're building is going to get used, and expanding that way, and ensuring that we have, you know, the best quality of data. You know, that there's nothing worse than going onto a site, and if you're a purchaser and I want to buy those shoes, it says they're $150, and you go and call the place or click through, and it's like, oh, it's actually sold out, or it actually costs $190. So making sure that our quality of information is top notch, and making sure that our teams that run every department are really tight, solid, well-tuned machines.
But I want to touch on you saying about how the 3 years where you weren't taking a salary, because when you find that niche and you know you're passionate about it and you know you've got something of value, it's amazing that how many people give up in that time frame. People probably go after 6 months, may have given up, or a year have given up, but you know you had something that you know was going to work, you know you could provide value. And the real people who I know, the real agents who have really found their niche, have struggled through it, and they know, and they've come out on the other end way ahead of most agents or any other one else, because they really stuck through it. So what got you through that time frame? Because that can be a struggle for a lot of people, is getting stuck in that I'm not making as much money, or I'm not doing the business that I'm doing, or that I should be doing.
Yeah, so there's a great quote by Calvin Coolidge, and I don't know it off the top of my head. Well, I know the gist of it off the top of my head, but it's Calvin Coolidge, who was, I don't know, the 30th or 33rd president of the United States, has a poem called Persistence, and it's nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan pressed on has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. So it's a great quote, and I really believe in that quote. I mean, it's persistence. I'm not the smartest guy. I did fine in university and my master's, but I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not the most talented guy in the world, but I have persistence, and my business partner does as well. And we pressed on. You know, when things got tight or things got tough, we believed in it, and you kind of read that poem every day and just get motivated to just keep pushing through. And it's definitely one of the biggest issues that I see from, I'm sure it's very similar to the agent world, but the startup world. So in the startup world, again, you can go years without a salary or whatnot. In the agent world, I'm sure you can go years without even selling a house. I mean, maybe in the Toronto market right now, or pod, if you're not selling a house in a year, you probably got a problem. But to have persistence and believe in yourself, and continue to press on. So, you know, I see a lot of people who come into startups, they don't have that kind of belief and persistence, and maybe they'll start something, but they won't actually keep it as their main job. They'll still keep their main jobs aside or they'll launch it as a side job and have their main job, but not give it their full. I think it's really important if you're doing something to really give it your full, and press on and keep pushing on through.
Yeah, because it's the people that do that and take away that safety net that will last. I know a lot of people will put in, they have that second job or they've got something else coming in, and they never really give it their all. And if they commit to giving it their all, they will be surprised at really what the end result will be. It's for me doing this podcast. It's I jumped into this when I started this. I said, I know I want this to be successful, and I just went all in, started doing it, and I'm blown away at how well it's taken off and the success it's had, but it's only because I was committed to it and the persistence.
Exactly.
I talked to another agent who had a similar kind of, not a podcast, but she was doing some training for real estate agents, and after 6 months she said, oh, I give up. I'm not getting the results I want. And I'm like, that's right when you're starting to, you get to that point and you're starting to feel those frustrations. That's really when things are starting to come together.
100%. And the other thing that I'd say is, again, I got lucky. My business partner and I really complement each other. So, he is a great detail-oriented person who, the way we have it kind of spread is he oversees a lot of the internal aspects of the company. I deal with the external, so all the PR, all the client care, all the everything on the external side, and we both work together on strategy, and we really respect each other. So, in the 5 years, we've obviously had disagreements, but we've never been in a fight, we've never been in an argument. We were able to solve everything, and I found for me that was really important. Having a really great sounding board to bounce ideas off of, somebody who can trust you. So even if you're trying to take something in a bit of a different direction, you have that leeway. I think that is really important as well. And again, I imagine it's similar to real estate, where you might either be working with another agent or have a mentor, but to really have someone alongside that can mentor you and you can trust to kind of take you along the way.
Yeah. So for you, when you were going through those struggling times, at what point did you realize you've not arrived, but you've got to the level that you want to get to, and that it really is coming together and was worth the work?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever got to that level. I mean, it's definitely worth the work.
Good answer.
but we're constantly on edge, and we're constantly trying to push forward and push the limit. We recently launched we had 2 really great releases this year, which really pushed the boundaries. One being Market Snapshot. So in North America, you can now click through to any neighborhood in North America, and you can actually see what the average listing price is in that area, what the average price per square foot is in that area, what the unit breakdown is, how many 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, what's the median price. It gives you all the historical information that's never been available to the public before. So we were able to take our information, kind of our big data, and actually use it to publish this information. That was one thing. And on the other side, which was a lot scarier, was this year we launched builder reviews. So you can now go on and actually review a builder. Obviously very scary. Our clients are builders, and if they're getting bad reviews, there could be issues there. Again, the idea is let's create the best possible new home purchasing experience, and that includes builder reviews. We constantly got bombarded with questions. Well, how's this builder? How's that builder? Well, it's one thing for us to say they're a good builder. We don't have experience with actually living in their units. We don't know what their unit layout's like. So we launched this builder review. So those are 2 things that again, we pushed forward, and it's constantly, that's on the product side, and we're constantly launching new product, but on the expansion side as well. I mean, we're in a market where Joe, who lives in his parents' basement, could essentially create something more groundbreaking than us and overtake us. Or on the other hand, Google could be like, hey, you know what? We like this new home search industry. We'll put $1 billion towards it. So we're constantly on edge, making and constantly working to ensure that we know the market the best, we know new construction the best, and even if a huge guy came after us, we would hopefully be able to defend against it. And if small, it'd be very hard, I think, for a small person, just because of the type of information we're utilizing. But that keeps us continually striving to be the best possible and making sure that we never get lazy and just kind of happy with the success we've had, and let's just kind of run a little company, pushing a giant company.
And I think it's important that you said is that you put the consumer's experience in the first place, because Google's done that. Everything is about the consumer experience, and that's why they've done so well. There's been other companies who've come and gone or can't keep up with Google, because Google's mission is put the customer search experience first, then profits second. Profits come with it. So what other things have you done to, not beat out the competition, but just make sure that you are on top of that, because I'm sure you've seen people come and go, and probably some of it may be laughable, but some maybe you may be watching out for people. But what have you done to ensure that you guys are staying on top of it, other than the customer experience?
Yeah, we make sure that anything that happens in new construction, we know about. So whether, again, you're Joe in your parents' basement, we work hard to find you and see what you're doing, and even learn from you. I mean, listen, again, we're a great team, but people could do things a bit better than us. So making sure that anytime there is a competitor, making sure that we're learning from what they're doing and making sure that we're better. Anytime a huge competitor is out there, making sure that we're better than what they have. And that, it's constantly paying attention to the market. It's knowing all of the markets. Again, as you expand across North America, and we're going to go beyond North America, there's not just nuances in neighborhoods, but there's nuances in cities, there's nuances in countries. I mean, the difference between the Canadian market and the U.S. market is huge. So we had a huge amount of learning that we needed to do to get into that market, figuring how their systems work, and making sure that our system is integrated into that. So again, it's just never getting lazy and constantly be persisting to make sure that we are the best available product out there. And not just being reactive, but proactively making sure that we're the best. Yeah. It's one thing to watch your competitors and make sure you're better than them, but it's another thing to constantly be leading the pack and actually launching things like Builder Reviews. And for me, it was kind of crazy. Nobody had ever done Builder Reviews before. There's Yelp, there's TripAdvisor, there's billions of review sites, and none of them really covered this market that deals with anywhere from a $200,000 to people done $30 million deals through our site. So from $200,000 to $30 million, it's a big purchase. How could there not been a Builder Review system? Again, people were scared of doing it because builders don't like it, but some builders love it. I mean,
if they're good, they should have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, and if they're bad, it makes them better. I mean, transparency is a good thing. It makes either bad people go away or better their companies to be great companies.
So for you, when you're in that expansion mode, you're obviously taking over different areas. Is it all expanding at one time? Are you taking over strategic markets? And what does that look like for you to move into that market?
So we did Canada in segments. We did Toronto, and then we started out with just condos, so just urban Toronto. Then we expanded to rural Toronto, GTA, and then kind of the Golden Horseshoe. From there, we launched a Vancouver office, and then from Vancouver and Toronto, we kind of filled inwards, and then we filled eastward from Toronto, eastbound from Toronto. So we were all of Canada. Then we launched our New York office. We launched in New York, and then we did New York. I think then we went to Miami, and then DC, Chicago, and then Boston, and then next thing I knew, we were had this data. I looked at the map one day, and I was like, holy cow, we 12,000 new developments in North America. Like, how did that just happen? So there's that, but it's one thing to expand into another market that have the listings. It's another thing to make sure that our listings are actually updated, because it's one thing in just Toronto. Again, somebody sees a house for $250,000, they go there and it's actually $350,000. The prices went up overnight. Doesn't look great. So as you expand to these markets, making sure that your research team and your data team is strong enough to be able to be keeping up with the rate of expansion.
And the reason you can do that is because you're focused, and you have the right, where you're going, you know what you want to do with the business, and you can focus on what matters and not be taken off by bright, shiny objects and keep your business on track.
Yeah, and that's actually a great point, because over the years, there's been a lot of bright, shiny objects where either myself or Cliff is like, ooh, that's, and, I don't want to give any examples, but we've had a lot of great opportunities along the way that we've had to let go, and those great opportunities were great opportunities. I mean, they ended up, one of the companies that Cliff and I started with another partner ended up selling to a massive, exited, and Cliff and I completely walked away from the company. It was distracting from our main goal. And Cliff's much better at that than I am. He's able to make sure that as I stray, I get, actually even last week I came up with this new idea in real estate, and I was like, Cliff, we got to launch this new company. He was, able to pull me back in and be like, Matt, we cannot launch, we are at like such a crazy time right now with expansion and hiring, and we just, and so many of our engineers are like just pumping stuff out. Our product team, he's like, we cannot veer into that direction. So he reeled me back in, and it's really important to have that laser focus.
Yeah, because as you get more successful, people think good opportunities happen and it makes them more successful. It's as you get more successful, it's learning to not take the opportunities, because you're going to get more and more and more opportunities, and that doesn't mean it's going to be the right opportunity for you or that it's the right opportunity for your business.
100%. It's a great management thing that even, as I mentioned, even I work with, not just from expanding, but even internally. Like as you grow your company, just learning how to say no.
Yeah.
It's really tough. When an employee brings a great idea, it's very easy to say yes. It's very hard to say no. So it's something that I think everybody needs to work on, or at least I know I do. It's an important lesson, a really important lesson to learn, and to, again, always be on top of, because it is so easy to say yes. I mean, it's the easiest thing. Saying no is really one of the toughest things.
But rewardingly, if you do it right, it will pay off, and it's well worth it in the long run.
For sure.
So speaking of saying yes, where is the future of BuzzBuzzHome going then, and where do you want to take it?
So, U.S. expansion is really a key driver right now. We are pumping really hard into the U.S., building out our team there, gaining visibility there, making sure our information is the best there, making sure all the listings are on our site, we still have areas to fill out. So right now we're really working hard on U.S. expansion, new products for U.S. expansion, and at the same time kind of building things in a way that we can expand outside of the U.S. as well. I mean, we don't think that BuzzBuzzHome is this little Toronto company that whatever. I mean, we see it as a multi-billion-dollar industry that we're able to disrupt across the world. I mean, there really is not many companies that do what we do, and there's definitely not many that do it well internationally. So being able to take our model and prove we work in Canada, prove we work in the United States, and then take over more markets.
Awesome. So I would like to wrap up with Golden Nugget. So if there's something you could give to our listeners if they're thinking about starting a niche, or maybe they're struggling with something, is to really give them that extra push or share your wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if it's actually the best advice. I know what's worked for me, but I can say it's something that I mentioned earlier on. If you're really passionate about something and you really believe in it, then quit your day job and go do it. I mean, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. Don't have to do it. If you're going to do something, go full out. It might be a hard few years, but if you're actually onto something, the rewards are phenomenal, and the experience is phenomenal, and actually building something is one of the greatest things. I mean, we took an industry where there was zero and created it into an extremely profitable area. I mean, it's almost like land development, where land development, the beauty of land development, why I love it so much, is you're taking a piece of land that is pretty valueless and you're adding value to it as a builder. It's like you're creating wealth on this nothing that other people didn't see existed. So if you kind of see something like that and you're passionate about it, drop everything else and do it. I mean, the worst thing that happens is you fail, and hopefully take your experience and apply it and get a job somewhere else. But at least you tried and gave it your all.
That's a great advice, and very timely for, I know, a lot of our listeners, because some of the people are at that point where they're struggling and they're not sure what they should do. So that's definitely good advice. So Matthew, if you can share the best way for our listeners to check out what you're doing, get a hold of you, and see what you guys are up to, what's the best way for them to find that out?
So best way to find out for BuzzBuzzHome is go to BuzzBuzzHome.com. You can find us on Twitter at BuzzBuzzHome.com, Instagram at BuzzBuzzHome. Actually, I said Twitter, BuzzBuzzHome.com. Twitter is just at BuzzBuzzHome. Instagram, BuzzBuzzHome. Facebook, we screwed up early on and made a really stupid name on Facebook as Buzz at BuzzBuzzHome, Google Plus at BuzzBuzzHome. So pretty much if you type in BuzzBuzzHome, you're going to find us somewhere. That's the best way to find them. Find BuzzBuzzHome if you're looking for me. My handle is Slutsky. So you can always just look me up and connect with me, or flip me an email if anyone wants to chat. Matthew@buzzbuzzhome.com.
Perfect. We'll put all that contact information in the show notes, and I'm going to put the quote that you shared as well, because I think it was a very good quote for our listeners, and I think they can really resonate with a lot of our viewers. So thank you for that. So Matthew, we appreciate you being on the show, and look forward to seeing the future of BuzzBuzzHome and seeing what you guys are up to.
Awesome. Great chatting with you.
Thanks for being on.